Hi, thank you for joining me today for day 25 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life. Today's sketch you can see in the top right hand corner there is by Karen Adams Kidwell, and I've sort of interpreted it slightly differently. I cut my photos to 3x5, which is what Karen suggests in her sketch, but it didn't match the sketch, so I'm not sure whether she meant 3x4 or whether it's just not to scale, but I stuck with my 3x5 because I liked how the photos turned out that size. And rather than having a piece of paper down the middle of the layout, I'm embellishing the sides of the layout, and then I'm going to embellish the middle slightly differently. So these are really special photos. They're of my twins on their 16th birthday last Saturday. They decided that they wanted to go to the park with friends, which is just across the river from us. Really, really local. We're so blessed to have that. And they wanted pizzas delivered. One of our lockdown treats in 2020 was to buy a proper commercial pizza oven. We had an outdoor one and it wasn't performing particularly well. And when the weather's not nice, it's not nice to go out and bake pizzas. So it kind of escalated from having a garden oven to sorting out some room in our house to have a commercial pizza oven, and we love it. We use it all the time, and every time we have pizzas we always joke about whether we've reclaimed the money rather than buying pizzas that we've cooked our own. So little story time there for you. So these two photos of them just as we delivered the pizzas, so it's the kids taking the pizzas to the picnic blankets that they've got. So I'm using Where To Next from Vicki Boutin, and I've just pulled out two of the papers, the black and white floral piece and the one with the clouds on, and I'm going to stick those to the edges. Now you can see my card is a little bit warped, and that's because I've added some transparent gesso. I just use the Liquitex one to the background because I want to add some stamping to this section, and I wanted to be able to do the water bleed technique with it. So the gesso resists the water and allows the ink to move about the page a little. So I've just pulled out all my number stamps. I haven't got a huge number of stamps, but I had enough. So first of all, this is the Ellie's Studio jumbo numbers. So first of all, the solid outline, and I'm using Mowed Lawn and Speckled Egg. I don't know why I always have to think about that one because it's a colour that I probably use the most. But I thought these colours would go nicely with the colours in the photos because they're very natural photos with all the greenery of the park. So just stamping this around the page in the solid in those two colours, and then coming back in now with the outline. And I am just wiping off my stamp after each inking, after each colour, just so that the colours don't merge too much. So this will take a little while. While I'm doing this, please don't forget to check the description box down below to see everybody else who's playing in on this hop. I will add Karen's details, who created the sketch for us, and also the playlist that Christie has created for us, so that you can go and see everybody else's video on this whole month-long hop. Some people are doing daily like I am, some people are just dipping in and out, but all their videos should be added to that playlist. So it's great fun to watch. So this is my next stamp that I'm pulling out. It's the Max Alphabets from Ellie's Studio. This is one of her new stamps, and I absolutely love this. If you've watched my previous videos this month, you will have seen me using it for some of my titles. It's a really, really nice stamp. So again, just going in with those same two colours and stamping this around. I felt that the numbers were a little bit too far apart when I started stamping this, so I'm just moving moving it in a little bit to get them a bit closer together, and I'm much happier with how that looks. I'm not too concerned because the photos will overlap this section. I'm going to do the ink bleed, as I mentioned, with some water, so I'm not worrying about being too precise, just making sure that the background is evenly covered. That said, look, I didn't stamp that one very well, so I went back over it with the green. I think the perfectionist in me always wants to make things right. So almost there now, and here I am with my water spray. So I'm just spraying this and then leaving the water to do its stuff. You could see there on that 16 on the left-hand side, it was just starting to bleed a little bit. So while that's activating and moving the ink around for me, I'm going to curl up the edges of these two strips that are going on either side of the page and get them ready to add onto the layout. I'm also going to map my photos. So first of all with some scrap white cardstock, and then I'll go in with a couple of the papers from this collection. And this Where To Next collection, although it's marketed as a travel collection. I don't think I've actually used it for any travel photos yet. It's just a brilliant collection for everyday photos. The colours are perfect. Even the icons work really nicely. Obviously there are some that are more travel related, but like I'm looking at the finished layout and some of the words that I've used on there. We've got weekend plans, this is really awesome, here comes the sun, happiness is here. So it's very generic. And that's what I love about the Vicki Boutin collections, and I think why I reach them so often, because they are very generic. They're not too themed, and that's definitely my go-to. So this is the piece of paper that I gutted when I did a layout previously a couple of days ago. So I'm just using that as a mat. It's like a black graph. It's really nice. I definitely want another piece of this paper. So I think it's one of the cut aparts on the other side, but obviously not using it for that. And I'm going to offset these photos on the mats, so I'm not sticking them down just yet. But being a graph paper, it's really easy to cut out in a straight line because you can just follow the lines. So just checking that I'm happy with the size, which I am, and then I can stick them down. So like I say, just offset at a slight angle, and then I will bring in another paper to straighten out that offset, if you like. I find that doing this with two papers is more pleasing to my eyes somehow. So just using my fingernails to distress the edges of the papers. And then I'll go in with the green. Almost there. So first of all, blotting off the excess water. It's nearly dry. It's very warm in the UK at the moment. And you can see where those inks have bled. I didn't want it to bleed too much because I wanted you to still be able to see that it was all 16s that I put down, obviously for their 16th birthday. And to hide those pencil lines, I'd gone a little bit too far across the page. I'm just leaving a very thin white border on either side of the paper, you can see there, just to bring that paper in a little bit. So this is where the photos are going to go, and here I am looking for another paper to mat them on. I'm just going through the 6x8 paper pad, and I pull out this lovely green tone on tone. Again, that's definitely my go-to when it comes to matting. I do like the tone on tone papers. I'm definitely a B-side girl. So using that same paper on both photos, just for continuity. And there we go. So I'll do exactly the same with this. It will be straight with the photo offset against that other piece that I put down, and roughing the edges up with my fingernails. And then once that's done, I'm going to raise these up onto foam pads, just so that they sit nicely over those curled up edges of the strips down the sides of the page. So you can see, if you compare my layout to the sketch, those photos are much wider than the ones on the sketch. And that said, I still love the sketch. I'm not saying anything against it. It just didn't quite seem to scale somehow. And I do wonder if they should have been 3x4. So here are my 6x2 25mm foam pads. And I'm just going to add those to the back with a gap in the middle so that it bridges the rolled up edges on that paper. But before I stick them down, I do want to come in with some more stamping. So I'm bringing in another very old LE Studio stamp set that I've got. And I'm going to go in with my black ink with these, just to add some different colour. It really makes the other colours pop when you add black to colours. So using my archival ink so that it doesn't smudge if I do decide to add more water. I'm just coming in with this small stamp, and then I come in with a tiny stamp after this one. So again, just making sure that that's correctly stamped. And then this is a teeny tiny one from one of the date stamps from the LE Studio collection. So just adding a couple of these scattered around as well. And then once I've done that, I decide that just having 16 all over the page isn't enough. So I come in with one of the Where To Next stamps from the collection. And one of the stamps says happiness. And these stamps are gorgeous to work with. Really nice thin lines. And you can see there. So I do a couple on the background, and then I do actually add one just here to the bottom right hand corner of that photo. This archival ink works perfectly on photos. So that just looked really nice in that blank space of grass that I had in the bottom right hand corner of that photo. So once I finish with the happiness stamp, I come in with another one from the same stamp set that says on this day, and add that around. And I think that just finishes off the 16s really nicely on that page. So now that stamping's all down, I can stick my photos down and work on my title. So the title's going at the top of the page per the sketch, and it just says Pizza in the Park. So I'm going to use the thickers from the Where To Next collection to add pizza in, and then the park, I'm going to go in with this bold black scenic route sticker set that I've got, a very old sticker set. So once that's done, I want to start embellishing my photos. So this is the 6x12 sticker sheet, and that little note paper piece says Weekend Plans, which works nicely. And then this sign says What a Beautiful World, and I really like that. Then the geotag that says This Place, and then into the sticker book for a little black bulldog clip here. And now I've finished the layout, I've realised I didn't pull out any of the papier pieces or the chipboard pieces, and they're on a separate shelf, so I must remember to pull those out when I pull this collection. I'm so frustrated that I didn't, because I bet there were loads of pieces that I could have added here. Anyway, I'm very happy with the overall effect of the layout, so it doesn't really matter, does it? So this sticker says Here Comes the Sun, and works beautifully because it was a really hot sunny day on that Saturday. They thoroughly enjoyed themselves. I was so relieved that the weather was nice. A little black label at the top there, just building up that little cluster, and this beautiful sun. So now going into the puffy stickers, just to pull a few of these bits, and there's this little green outlined heart, so I bring that in. And this little piece just says this. And I've got my Flair badge there from Hey Little Magpie, the little chevrons. And then on the chipboard sticker sheet, this piece says, This is really awesome. And that just finishes off this cluster nicely. Well, it doesn't finish it off, I add more, but I just like that word phrase coming out from the Flair badge. That gold little round dot is from the chipboard pieces. And just bringing that in to add something extra. And then I come in with the Hey Little Magpie printables. These are the Where To Next printables. And they're just brilliant for adding little bits and pieces around your page. They always have labels on circular and rectangular, and they also have 10 round 1-inch Flair pieces that you can use with icons and phrases. So I'm just using 2 of the label pieces here, one in like a blue colour and one in the yellow, and these just work nicely as a mat behind that What a Beautiful Word sign. And I will move that sign down so that it pokes out of the top of the bottom photo. You'll see in a minute. So just trimming around, these have the curved edges, so just trimming around there. I'll stick that down underneath the blue one. And then you can see in a minute, I just move this down a little bit so that it pops out from under that bottom photo. And that just connects the 2 photos really nicely. So now I want to add some of these circular elements. So first of all, going in with the 1 1/4 inch labels, and just adding one around by that flare. I love adding circular elements together in differing sizes. They layer up beautifully. So just gluing that down, and then I shall punch out a couple of the symbols, the 1-inch pieces. First of all, this green camera. And at first I think I'm going to add that to that cluster, but I realise there's just too much green going on there. So move it down to the bottom by that geotag that says This Place, and just overhang it off the edge of the page and snip off the bottom in a bit. And then this peachy piece that says Moments, and that works nicely in that position there. So although it's the same size as the Flair badge at 25mm, because it's a different texture and it's flat, it works really nicely in that cluster. So now I'm coming in with one of these new bits and piece from Hey Little Magpie. It's just a little fabric label with a sun on it, and that works beautifully in that top left hand cluster there. And then some of our little embroidered flowers So a green one at the bottom here, and then I add a peach one to that other cluster with the Flair badge. Also one of the little stars, puffy star, iridescent stars that we sell at Hey Little Magpie in our bits and pieces, and one of the suede smiley faces. So just lots of little bits that I add that I really enjoy adding to my pages. So coming in with my roller date stamp now, and I'm just adding it there on the right hand side below that cluster. And then some gold dots from my Nouveau Crystal Dots. And once those are down, I decide that I want to add some gold underneath the strips of paper going up and down the sides. So you'll see I bring in my gold watercolour in a minute and just add some watercolour down those sides. So here I am with that. I'm just adding that in. This is just a Ganzi Tambi watercolour paint, but any gold would work. You could use your shimmers or anything. I just had this one to hand. And that's pretty much the layout done. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. A bit longer and a bit different for me, but it was great fun having a play with my stamps and trying that water bleed technique again. I tried it about a month ago and I bled a bit too far. The colours almost disappeared on the page, so I was a little bit more cautious this time. So just adding some splatters at the end to finish this off, and that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. Keep watching for the close-ups at the end, and I shall see you tomorrow for day 26. Almost there. Bye.